Today we're going to start a new project, and it's using some interesting different materials that we haven't used before. It uses coiling cord, yarn, and this plastic needle, and a style that is common in the Gullah region of basket weaving. So you will have the option of making 3 different types of projects. It's up to you. You might decide to do something like this, which is basically just a simple coil that starts and finishes with different colors of yarn if you would like, and it just basically makes a coaster for a drink to go on, something like that. If you would like to make your coaster into this cute little snail, that is another option. It is the same process, only we have an extended end and a little head that we put together. Or if you would like to do the option of some kind of basket, you can see from the pictures there are lots of baskets that you can make, or you could do something like this, which was made by one of my students a few years ago. You can see it's made out of multiple colors of yarn. It has a flat base, which is exactly like our coaster or our snail. And then the student started wrapping up in a vertical motion and then out. And what I do with this is that I put a bottle inside of it and flowers inside of it, and it is absolutely gorgeous. So you get to pick from these options. Let's get started. To begin with, we're going to use coil and a piece of string. You can get this from Miss Thomas. And you need to have a plastic needle and a pair of scissors. Miss Thomas can help you with that. You won't need it throughout the entire project, just at the beginning and maybe at the end. So to begin with, we are going to take one piece of our yarn and thread it through our plastic needle. Now, different people have different ways of doing this, but my favorite way is to take the yarn, and you see how it's naturally twisting in one direction. I twist and twist and twist in that same direction, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller because the twist is going with the direction of the yarn. And then at some point it wants to twist in on itself and make this little kind of nub. And that is how I get it through the needle. You might need to kind of scissor it, push it a little bit. Ooh, there we go. And then pull it through the needle. Okay? So that's the first step. Now you don't want to knot this. That will cause problems. However, you also don't want the yarn to slip out of your needle. So what I tend to do is I tend to pull it through my needle about two lengths of my hand. Then it's not going to fall out of the needle easily. The next thing is to put the needle end down and to find the opposite end of your yarn. This is going to be the working end. If your yarn is frayed, you can ask Miss Thomas to help and just cut off the end if it's frayed. Now you want to look at the end of your coil. It doesn't matter which end of coil you use, but to start with, it's nice if your coil is at this nice chamfered angle, because that's going to make it easier for you. If it's really fluffy and it's kind of a mess like that, just ask Miss Thomas to come over and she'll help you cut the frayed part off. If it's like this, that's totally fine. Now, how we start this project is definitely the trickiest part. So feel free to watch this and then try to do it on your own, and then pause it and then back it up as many times as it takes to get started. The start is hard, and then it gets easy and a lot of fun. To begin with, you're going to be holding the yarn in your right hand and the coil in your left hand, and they're pointing toward each other. Then you're going to overlap the two of them. About the length of a finger is how much you want to overlap it. Then hold with your left hand the coil and the yarn. And with your right hand, carefully wrap the coil, or wrap the yarn around the coil where it is at the chamfer. Now, as you wrap, you're going to actually start wrapping your yarn toward your left hand so that it wraps up and over the coil and the yarn. This might take a couple of tries in order to get it so that it doesn't fall off of your coil. As you're wrapping, you can count. You're going to do 20 wraps. So I kind of didn't start counting. I can come back and look and say I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wraps. So I'm going to wrap to 20. Another thing is that you want to pull tight enough that it's not loose and doesn't fall off of your coil, but you also want it to not be so tight that your poor little hands are tired. Another thing to keep in mind is that as you wrap, you want to wrap it so that the wraps are close and tight enough together so that there's no white core showing. So you don't want to wrap like this, where you can see the core in between. You want to wrap snug as a bug, right up against the yarn wrap before it. I think I've lost track of my counting again, so I'm going to stop here and count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. All right, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So you've been through one of the hardest parts. The next hardest part is next. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your the end and you're going to bend it. Keep hold of the left side, the length of the core and the yarn with your left hand, and then bend the part of the core that has yarn wrapped around it until it looks like a little worm and it comes back around like so. Now you're going to wrap keep wrapping your yarn up and around 2 lengths of core, up and around once, up and around. And I tend to pull this really tight because it's easy. If this falls off, then it all kind of falls together. You're going to make 2 double loops. A single loop is when you wrap yarn around one piece of core. A double loop is when you wrap around 2 pieces of core. So in this case, you're wrapping around the end of the core and up and over where the next single wrap would be. So you just do that twice, and then you come back to your single loops. And to do so, you might need to take your core and kind of push it in between your take your yarn, push it in between your 2 cores, and then go up and around, and we're doing single loops again, just around our main core. Now we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Now if you curl around, then you can see you have 1, 2, 3 areas of core, 3 rows of core. We are going to do a double loop, which means that we're going to wrap around one piece of core and then the core that's closest to it, which is this piece of core. This is really important. You'll be wrapping around your working end and the core that's right next to it. Now the only problem is I can't do this just with my hand unless I somehow stuff the core through the middle. And that's why I have my other end with my needle. So you're going to take your needle and go up. Essentially, this is the only time that you'll go through the middle, but it is through the middle the first time. Up through the middle, and then pull that yarn out. I just let my needle go back on my desk. Pull that yarn through. And this time when I wrap, I'm wrapping around 1, 2 pieces of core. So up and around, then I'm holding it with my hand, left hand, and I find my needle again, and I'm going to make 2 double loops around 2 pieces of core. So to do that, I'm going to put my needle through the middle again, pull it up through the middle, pull that through, and then go up and around. 2 wraps around 2 pieces of core. Now I'm going to go back to single wraps. And I'm going to wrap 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now I'm going to curl there we go, curl it around, maybe squeeze it so it makes more of a circle. Curl it around, hold it with my left hand. With my right hand, I have the needle. Use the needle to guide it around 2 pieces of core. So in this case, it looks like I'm coming up through the center, but it's just because I'm trying to wrap it around 2 pieces of core. Pull this through. It goes up and around once, and then I'm going to use my needle, go through so that I have 2 pieces of core, pull it through, up and around a second time. Now I'm going to go back to my single loops. I'm going to do 10 single loops and 2 doubles, and I'm going to continue that for the entire project. So if you've gotten this far, then you have gotten through the most difficult part of the project. So 1, 2 single loops, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Wrap it around. Look for your 2 pieces of core, your working end, and then the core right next to it. You can use your needle, flip it over to look, or look from this side. Pull the yarn up and through, and then 2 loops, so that's 1. Come back, find your needle, guide it so that it goes around 2 pieces of core, up and over. Remember, all of your wraps are right next to each other. So that's 1, 2, 2 double loops. So now I'm going to come back and do single loops again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Take my needle, bend this around. Now I need to guide it from the bottom so that my double loop goes around 2 pieces of core. This is the first time it's not going through the center. It's really important to remember that you're not just going to always go through the center. That's only, the first 1, 2, 3, 4 double loops. As soon as you get far enough out that your coil is this size, then you're just wrapping your double loop around the outer working core and the core next to it. So that means that I'm going to end up pushing my needle through. Right. Sometimes it's harder than other times. Right here. There we go. Okay. There we go. Up and over. And then push your needle through. And you try to push the needle so that it goes right on the opposite side of your working core with 2 pieces of core in between. Pull. There we go. And that's my second double loop. Now you're in business. You are rolling. Another 10, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now curl it around. Use your needle to guide from the bottom. You want that needle to come up so it's just across from your working yarn. Pull it through, up and over. So these double loops have the purpose of connecting your working coil from the core right next to it. So that's the purpose. Up and over. Now let go. 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Lay that core down beside the core next to it from the bottom. Use your needle to guide it around the core that's right next to it, and do 1 loop and then a second loop. Now go ahead and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Curl that down. You will come across this from time to time where you see that you're trying to make your double loop in the outer 2 cores, and one of the loops double loops that you made before is really close to that. You just have to decide if you want to be to the left or the right of the double loop from earlier. This looks like it could be best to the left, and so when I look on the other side, I'm just going to try to get so that I'm on the left. I don't typically want to go right through the double loops from earlier. Okay, that's one loop. And 2 loops. All right, let's take a peek at this for a minute and see how it's coming along. Some things that you want to strive for. Your double loops, you want them to be side by side and straight, like parallel lines, or like your fingers if they're close together, right? You want to try to avoid having them be this V shape. It just looks a little tiny bit better if they're little straight legs that are standing beside each other. You also want to occasionally look at the other side of your project. Your double loops should be side by side there instead of V'd, and you shouldn't see very much core. Now you can see it. I have a little bit of work to do. Right here I can see core, and right here I can see core. So you might be able to just kind of shift the yarn a little bit, or keep that in mind moving forward. It looks a little bit better if you totally cover your core. Like I said, you don't want to leave these big gaps. But you know what? This is your first time doing this. So if that happens a little bit, just you can decide if you want to start over, or you can just be more aware of it moving forward, and it'll get a little bit better. All right, let's get back to our 10 single loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we're going to do our double. So curl this down, push from the back so that we continue to come up and over. You might see that this happens too. When you are working to the point that you get toward the end of your yarn, you might see that you have 2 pieces of yarn that are coming through. One is the tail, so just pull that tail out with you, and then you might make the tail a little bit shorter in your needle. So we're going to do a double and a double, and then we're going to do another 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we're getting pretty close to the end of our yarn. So I'm going to do 2 more doubles, pull my core around, hold it with my hand, and then use my needle to guide it around 2 double loops. Okay, I'm going to make 1 single loop here. And the neat thing about this project is if you stop directly after a double loop, it kind of is tight enough that it doesn't just unravel or unform. So if you get to a certain spot at any day, if we're working on this multiple days, and you get to a place where you have to finish for the day and come back to it later, then I would just say put a double loop in there so that it kind of holds it tight. So we are getting ready to run out of blue yarn. So we're going to add some new yarn. You can add the same color if you want your whole basket to be the same color, or you can add a new color. I'm going to be changing to purple. So the first thing that I need to do is make sure that I have stopped at a double loop. That's a locking loop, and it'll keep everything nice and tight. Work down until you have about 1.5 lengths of your hand left of yarn, and then take off the needle off of your first color. In this case, our first color is blue. Come over to your second color and put your needle on your second color. We're going to be doing this the same way I did before, where I hold the end of the yarn and twist. Twist in the direction that the yarn is already twisting, and as it gets tighter and tighter, if you let your fingers come together a little bit, it'll make a knot, and that knot will make it a little bit easier to, holding that, to smush the yarn through the needle. Might be tough, but you can do it. Just keep at it. Okay, there. Now I'm going to pull my yarn through 1, 2 lengths, about 2 hand lengths, something like that. That's just so that it doesn't fall out of my needle easily. Now I need to put the needle down, the needle end down, and find my working end of yarn. So just going to do this until I get to the end. Okay, so now I have the working end of yarn. The working end of the new yarn is in my left hand. It is in the same hand that I hold the core with, and the working end is pointing toward the center of my basket. Now, the idea is that I'm just going to use wrapping in order to secure my new purple yarn and switch out for my blue. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my new purple yarn along the core with the end going toward the center of my basket. And I'm going to wrap just like I have been wrapping, but this time I'm doing 5 single wraps. And I'm wrapping not only the core, but also the new purple yarn. 2, I have to kind of help it with that finger. 3, 4, 5. Now, don't worry about this. We're going to cut that off later. But when you do these 5 wraps, you want them to be kind of tight because that's what's holding the new purple yarn in place. Now I'm going to switch. I'm going to lay down the blue yarn against the bottom of the core and pick up my purple yarn and start wrapping it 5 times. 1, 2, and you can see that I'm wrapping not only my core but also now my blue yarn 5 times. 3, 4, 5. This is a good time to move our yarn back over to the right and core to the left. If you keep these 2 things separated, it's going to really help you. Now I still have this long tail from my blue. I'm just going to leave that right now, and I have a tail from my new yarn color, which is the purple. I'm going to leave that there for now. Just like before, I'm going to take my basket and rotate it, and then using my new purple yarn and the needle, I'm coming up from the bottom and doing a double 2 doubles. Okay, so that's once and then another time. And I'm going to try to put those side by side so that they are nice and parallel to each other. Okay, up and over, and then I can do 10. I'm back to my normal 10 and 2. So 10 single loops, 1, 2, 3. You can see I still have this yarn in here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now if you want to, we can cut off the extra yarn from our first color. Just ask Miss Thomas to come with scissors and she'll help you out. And we can just leave that, the rest of that tail just sitting there beside the core. We're just going to wrap it in. Okay, so we're back to our double stitch. So it's coming up and over. I'm going to come through from the bottom. Up and over. Again, this is our locking stitch. So we are going up and over 2 pieces of core, the outside core and then the core that's right next to it. And we're going to do the second one, trying to get it so that it doesn't split the double that came just beside it. And up and over. That's the second of our 2 doubles. Now we can do singles, and I still want that little extra piece of blue from back there. I'm just going to lay that down and just wrap it up with the core. Nobody else is going to know it's there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Lay it down. Do my 2 double wraps. Double wraps are going around 2 pieces of core. Up and over. Double wrap again. The second one. And this just becomes a really relaxing project. I have a lot of kids that do it when they're watching TV. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Curl it around, double. Up and over. So you're just going to repeat that process. 10 and 2, 10 and 2. 10 singles, 2 doubles. 9, 10. Up and over. Up and over. Now occasionally look at the other side. It should be nice and neat too, with all of the double stitches side by side, and not very much white showing if possible. Put it back over here. Okay. And if you would like to, this is a great time to cut off any tails that you have. So we can just, you can ask Miss Thomas to come help you if you'd like some help. All right. And you just keep doing that until your snail or your coaster is big enough. And if you're going to be doing something like this, which is gorgeous, and I know that she spent lots of time at home working on this and added extra core and lots of yarn. If you're doing something like this, then you can see that we're about halfway to being big enough for the bottom of that. Great job, guys. Just keep at it. Once you get to the place where you can count 12 cores across, then we can make a decision. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we can count 12 across. So now we can decide if we want to make something like this, that is a coaster, if we want to make a snail, or if we want to make a basket. I'll show you the next step in making a basket. In order to make a basket, we need to start stacking our core. So it's no longer becoming a bigger, flatter surface, but it starts to rise. We're going to do that each time that we make a stitch. We're going to adjust the location so that it is, starting to stack. Essentially what we're going to do is, instead of making the core lay to the outside so that it becomes a bigger pancake, we're going to start stacking it so that, I'll just show you very loosely, so that it starts going higher and higher. You can see how it's starting to stack. So that's kind of our plan. So we are going to do the same thing that we've been doing. This is a double stitch, and now we're going to do 10 singles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And just like we have been doing before, we're going to do 2 single stitches, but we're not going to lay the core outside like a pancake. We're going to start stacking the core. So you can see how I'm shifting it so that the core is sitting on top of the core underneath it. And now I look underneath, I find out where I need to make the needle come through, and I go up and over both pieces of core, turn it over, do my second loop, up and over, and now I can go back to 10 singles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm putting my active core, my working core, up on top so that it is on top. So it's starting to get taller. Then going up and over and doing my double loop, up and over, doing my double loop. Okay, now I let go my basket. Just hold on to my core. 1, 2, 3, 4. Try to push that so that I don't see a bunch of core. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Same thing. I'm just stacking it. I keep stacking it on top. It's easy peasy. Up and over. Up and over. 10 singles. Stack it. Double loop. Now it's really starting to take shape, starting to look like a basket. It has a flat bottom, and then the edges are rising. See how it's starting to rise? That's great. We can do all kinds of things with a basket that's this size. We can put little things inside of it, maybe rings or stickers or anything that we want to keep track of. We could even make a lid. Stack it, go up and around, up and around for our double. 10 singles, 10 singles. Oh, I love it. It's really starting to come together. Up and over. Up and over. Now, it looks like I'm going to have to change yarn again. Do you remember how to do that? So here we are. If you decide to make a basket, then it will be about 12 core coils wide and about 6 tall, and it will look like this. Isn't that neat? When you get to the end of your core, you can end it like I'm going to show you. This is kind of tricky, but it's easier than the beginning. So you just keep wrapping. I guess I just did a double wrap. Maybe I have to do one more double wrap. And then I'm going to do 10 singles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm getting pretty close to the end. So when you're that close to the end, even though I haven't done 10 singles, I'm going to start doing doubles. And I'm just going to keep doing doubles until my top core is attached to my bottom core. Now, it's good if you have your core cut at an angle. That's called a chamfer, and that helps a lot at the ends, the beginning end and the end. Up and around. Up and around. Up and around. You just do wraps until you cover the end of your core. Just attaching that top core to the piece of cord that's right underneath it. And almost to the end. Now, personally, I really like it when the white core is completely covered. So I'm going to just go around this once more so that I can come up and over here and cover it. Maybe one more here. So now the goal is to tie a knot so that your string doesn't come undone. And that's the part that's a little bit tricky, but you can use your needle and go underneath a piece of yarn. I like to do it on the inside because it seems like it's hidden a little bit more. If this is super tricky, you can ask for Miss Thomas to help. And then you do 2 or 3 circle loops, pull your needle through and tighten it. And you can do that again. 1, 2, oopsie. Just want to try to keep it from unraveling. And then you can cut it. And you can tuck it. Use your needle to just tuck it. Like so. And then you have this great little basket. Isn't that so cute? You can keep rings in it, or look, I can keep, maybe I'll keep my erasers for art. It's the perfect little basket for whatever you want. Now, if you finish this basket and you really love what you're doing, Ask Miss Thomas for more core and you can make a lid. Let's learn how to turn this into a snail. So we have a little bit of purple left, and I'm going to use it and then change to this multicolored yarn, which is going to be the body of my snail. This is the shell. So we hold the core. We're going to take the new color yarn, lay it down so that it is wrapping along the core and toward the middle of our snail shell. And then we're going to just wrap like we normally would, this time 5 times, wrapping the new string in with the core. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to switch so that the new core or new yarn and old yarn switch places. The old one is laying down, the new one is wrapping 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What I should have done and forgot to do is to put the needle on the end of my new yarn. Oopsies. We can do that now. Okay, twist, 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 twist. Then push it through the needle. And we're going to attach by doing a double loop around 2 pieces of core. Just pulling that yarn through and then going up and over so that we attach the outer core to the cord right beside it. Okay, getting a little bit tangled. There we go. Okay, and goes up and around. And this is where we're going to go ahead and we can cut the old end. We can cut this shorter. That's the purple from and now I'm just going to continue to do, oopsie. Now I'm going to continue to do double loops. It's stuck on my shoe. It's all right. I'm going to continue to do double loops. Oops. Make sure that it doesn't get too tied up. up and over. So I'm going to do a series of double loops. So I did 4, and now this will be my 5th double loop. Now I'm going to do 5 regular wraps. 1, 2, 3. Sorry if I went off camera. 4, 5. Now I'm going to do 5 double loops. Up and over. Up and over. Okay, 5 doubles, 5 singles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 more doubles. Try to make sure that this covers my white string, or my white core as much as possible. So that's 3. That's 4. That's 5. 5 doubles, 5 singles. Oopsie, ruh-roh. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 doubles. This just gives it a nice finish. Okay, 5 singles, 5 doubles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the whole idea of this is that we have our snail shell, and then this is part of the snail body. And as soon as it gets to the point where this is like the bottom of the body, and then we're going to go into the snail head itself, then whatever feels right to you. I like to do about a finger length of snail body, and then about a finger length of snail head. And when we're ready to do the part of the snail that's sticking out away from the shell, all we're going to do is a bunch of single wraps. So we're just going to stop connecting it to the rest of the cores and just do single wraps. I like this multicolored yarn because it just looks like I'm constantly changing colors, and it doesn't take any effort. It just kind of becomes a little rainbow effect. Okay. So once we get to the place where the body is sticking out about the same length as a finger, so we're pretty close, then we can cut the end of our core like so. And then we can attach what is going to be the antenna. And I have found that a good way to attach this is when you have, just a little bit left, maybe just a little bit left on the end of your core before you wrap it up, just take your antenna, and they're going to be up like this, right? Because that's his head, and his head's going to be like that. So the antennae are going to be like that, but what I have found is that it actually helps to start with the antenna facing down, and then you just twist. These are just easy to twist pipe cleaners, and then when you push them so that they're going up, then they're firmly attached. They're not going to go anyplace. The great thing about these, and you can cut them so that they are even. The great thing about these is that it provides a place for your head and to wrap. So we're going to take the yarn, and we're going to continue to wrap it, and we're going to make a big bulbous head, and we're also going to cover all of the green antenna that's underneath and on top and all of the core. So that's the plan. So we're going to do that. We're going to continue to wrap, and we're just going to wrap it around the end like so, and then we're going to come back and wrap it backwards, and we're going to wrap up and through between the two antenna, up and between the two antenna, and maybe up from the front and around from the back, and up from the front and around to the back. And we're just building up a nice big head. So up and crisscross, up and cross through the antenna. Maybe turn it over and make sure that you've covered up the pipe cleaner. And we're just going back and forth. It's going to make this nice big head. Those pipe cleaners do double duty because it keeps our head from falling off of the core. Gives us some nice color with our multicolored yarn. Oops, make sure that this you feel like you have a head that feels proportionate to you, I would say that that is a really cute little snail. So the last trick is to tie the end of the yarn. We can take off the needle, and we want to somehow secure this. You can either glue it or you can tie it, and I kind of like to do both. Rather than tying it on the front where it might fall off of the end, it's a good idea to tie it near the back here. So maybe I'll do just a couple of little turns back here, and then see if I can tie it on the other side of his neck, kind of like a noose. Okay. And if you need help with this, just let Miss Thomas know. Okay, so that can be cut and glued for additional security. And then you can take googly eyes and attach them either to the tips of your antenna or to your head. It's your choice. And we have a cute little snail. Isn't that cute? Thanks, guys. So the last thing that I'm going to show you is how to end if you're just making a coaster. So this is an example where we started with green, went to yellow, and changed to blue, and we're almost to the end of our core, and we have the choice of either adding more core if we wanted to make something larger, or we can just go ahead and finish. This is the nice size for a coaster. So if we're going to end for a coaster, then you just take the end. Miss Thomas can help you with this part, and you're going to cut it at a severe chamfer. So that means that you're just going to cut it so that it is short going to long at this angle. And then when you have like less than a finger length, you can, I just did my 10 wraps and then my 2 doubles, so I can go ahead and do some more singles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so this ends up being a really good length. So to do my doubles, I go ahead and guide the yarn around 2 pieces of core, the outside and the one next to it. And then, since I'm so near the end, I'm just going to continue to do double wraps. Until I get through the end of my core. I'm doing these relatively tight because the integrity of my whole project really depends on being able to anyway, so I'm doing these relatively tight because I want to make sure that my whole project doesn't fall apart and stays together. And I'm just going to continue to do these double wraps, covering up the end of the core, the chamfered end of the core. And if I kind of strategize where I put my yarn, if I put it a little bit back, back here, then it'll pull even tighter and it'll cover up more of my core. So that's kind of my goal. That's what I'm going to do. Almost there. And this is just about perfect. Because I'm ending. That looks pretty good. I'm ending right near a double loop. And I am going to use this double loop to help me make a knot. So my goal is to use my needle and make a knot. So I'm pulling my yarn through this little double loop, and then I'm looping through my blue and pull that knot, and then I can snip it and tuck it. See if I can put that so that it's in between my cores. There. There you go. So that is how you end if you're doing a coaster. Great job, guys.